Hey y'all, it's me, Kevvie. So one of my favorite films of all time is The Lady Vanishes, starring Sybil Shepherd and Angela Lansbury. It actually has a lot in common with another favorite film of mine, Murder on the Orient Express. Both were made in the 70s, based on books written in and set in the 30s, take place on a train across Europe, and an exciting mystery occurs. I recently read the book it's based on, originally titled The Wheel Spins, by Ethel Lina White. Well, not so recently. It was back in June. So today I'm finally gonna discuss them both, and what I preferred about each version. By the way, the book was also adapted back in the 30s by Alfred Hitchcock, and that adaptation was good too. But I like the 70s version better, and we'll be discussing it more. The Lady Vanishes is about a young socialite who, while on a train to England, befriends an elderly English governess, Miss Froy, who had been working in Germany. Remember, it takes place in the 1930s, so that should tell you something. That's the political backdrop looming over the narrative. Anyway, the young woman takes a nap, and when she wakes up, Miss Froy is nowhere to be seen. Not only that, but nobody on the train seems to remember her ever existing. So now it's up to this woman to find Miss Froy before it's too late. I really love this story. It's an excellent mystery with high stakes, but also a lot of comedy. For instance, plenty of British folk on the train do remember Miss Froy, but they're of the nature to stay out of things that don't concern them, so they remain silent. I loved it as a book and as a film. As with any adaptation, there are a lot of changes from book to screen. In the novel, the protagonist is an English woman named Iris Carr, just a party girl who was abandoned by her friends who took an earlier train. In the film, the woman is an American heiress named Amanda. Her grandfather was worried that she'd never marry, so he willed her like $1 million, only to be received after marriage. However, the will does not specify that this is a one-time stipend, so she's made a habit of bribing men to marry her, getting that million, and giving the men a cut, and then moving on to the next one. She's on the train heading to London, where she is set to get married yet again. I felt Amanda was a better character. She had more agency and spunk, whereas Iris was pretty helpless in the book. I also just really enjoy Sybil Shepherd, so that really puts me in favor of Amanda. Another difference between the book and the film is the obligatory love interest. In the book, Max is an engineer. He never really believes Iris, but takes responsibility for her, being one of the few English speakers on the train and being attracted to her. In the film, Robert is a journalist, well acquainted with Amanda's antics, and initially doesn't believe her, but helps her investigate nonetheless. Again, I liked the film version better. He wasn't just some man patronizing a delusional hottie. He was genuinely invested in what she was going through. I suspect that was done for the sake of Hollywood, needing a love interest to actually be likable. Now let's quickly compare the Miss Froys of each version. Again, they're both very different, but this time I think both versions are good. In the film, she's portrayed by Angela Lansbury. Lansbury is a legendary actress of stage and screen, being the original Mrs. Lovett in Sweeney Todd, and beloved mystery writer and amateur detective Jessica Fletcher in Murder, She Wrote. Needless to say, her portrayal of Miss Froy is impeccable, but I felt like the character may have been more developed in the novel, since we had multiple chapters from her perspective. In the book, she's younger as well, being only in her 40s and on her way home, where she lives with her parents. Both versions, though, were charming and charismatic, but of course, if I had to choose one, it would have to be Angela Lansbury. There is one major difference where I actually preferred the book to the film, but to discuss it ventures into spoiler territory. As usual, I'll have a time code on screen and in the description in case you don't want to be spoiled. I want to discuss the change in the reason for Miss Froy's disappearance/kidnapping. In both cases, it's related to her previous employer, who was high up in the German government. In the book, in the middle of the night before her trip, Miss Froy gets out of bed for a quick bathroom break. While she's up, she sees her employer in the hallway. Just gives him a nice little wave, doesn't think about it, just hello. She thinks nothing of this. However, that night her employer was supposed to be out of the country because that night his rival was murdered. Miss Froy knows nothing of this and has no reason to be suspicious because she didn't get to see the papers before going on the train. However, her employer knows as long as she's alive, his alibi is shot. So he needs to get her out of the way. Isn't that exciting? Ugh, it was such good motivation. I really hate what they changed it to in the film. There, her employer gave her a coded message to deliver to British intelligence. But the message was coded in the form of a tune. So on her way to the train and wherever she goes, she's whistling this tune, which is a message that she, as a sort of pseudo spy, has to deliver to England. We never know what the song means. She doesn't even know what it means. It's just whistling. And when she's not sure she's gonna make it, she teaches the tune to Amanda and Robert. So there's a whole scene that goes, "Oh shit, we're getting shot at. Whistle with me." Again, I feel like that's a very Hollywood change, making it more musical, more theatric. But having read the book, it's so lame in comparison. Now to touch on the original Hitchcock film, the Sybil Shepherd Angela Lansbury film is more of a remake of that than of the book. Most of the changes I discussed earlier were also present in the Hitchcock film, like that stupid whistling. The love interest in the Hitchcock film is by far the worst of the three. Gilbert is an asshole artist who's really mean to Iris at the hotel the night before they go on the train, keeping her up by being loud on the floor above her, and after she gets him in trouble, he breaks into her room and refuses to leave. And that's supposed to be the love interest. Sure, he eventually helps save the day, but I still hate him from his behavior that night. The Hitchcock film also introduces the characters Charters and Caldecott. Film originals, these two men were the comic relief. British men so obsessed with cricket, and they're trying to get back to England before the end of the season. They were also in the 70s version, and very good there too, but they were even better in the Hitchcock film. It had an even larger comedic routine, having to share a bed in the maid's room at the hotel because they had run out of rooms. Oh, they were hilarious. Also, these two characters were so popular when the film originally premiered that they appeared in several subsequent films, radio shows, and even went on tour with their act. Really cool to learn that this staple of British comedy was a spin-off of this film. Another tiny little difference I want to mention that isn't going to make any sense without context is that I liked the nun character best in the Hitchcock film. Her role was the largest in that one and she showed the most agency. I've loved this version of The Lady Vanishes for years, and I'm thrilled to have finally experienced the original film and the book it's based on. All three versions are excellent, and I encourage you to go out and read or watch any of them. Have you seen or read The Lady Vanishes? Are you going to now? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if it pleases and sparkles, I'll see you in the next video. Mwah!